Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Scott Perry. I'm from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm speaking to you particularly because I'm running as a write-in candidate to replace Jack Reed in the U.S. Senate. My name is Robert Scott Perry. I will, between now and November 4th, lay out for you in no uncertain terms the differences between myself and Mr. Reed, and the unbelievable myriad of mistakes that he has participated in, and that if we let him continue to, he'll continue to make the same mistakes. Big mistake. Aaron Swartz. Whenever I look at this boy, I think of my boy. I think of all our boys, but I think of how our children, I'm 53, many of you probably have younger children, a few some older, but somewhere in that area. So I think from my age you might be able to ascertain that my child is pretty much grown up, and most of our kids are pretty well on the way to being grown up, which means they can be prosecuted as adults. There is a particular law called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, the CFAA, and under that act, if you hit the terms and conditions on a website, if you agree to the terms and conditions, there's a little box there, you hit it, you don't actually hit it, you move your little mouse, you move it to that space, and then you put a check mark. You're agreeing to the terms and conditions of a website. Now, on the basis of that law, a law that was designed so that people wouldn't misuse a website, they attached the possibility of a 35-year sentence. And in the history of the law, 35 years has been the sentence that they've sought. And one of the few cases that ever went very far was Aaron Swartz. And the reason they went after him was because they wanted to protect the war criminals. Jack Reed also wants to protect those war criminals. Now I will draw a nexus between last night's assault on the character of Henry Kissinger, which one should not do if you don't have a backup, or if you don't have the information. So let's make it clear what we're talking about here. Aaron Swartz, he was one of our best and brightest. He was a future leader. Henry Kissinger, he is the lowest and darkest kind of spook murderer that we ever used. I'll make it very clear why I come to this conclusion. On the day of 9/11, that's 9/11/2001, I was working on a Navy base, and all of a sudden the craziest thing in the world happened, the worst thing in the world happened, the most horrible thing one could think of. Airplanes flew into an enormous skyscraper called the World Trade Center, and there were bodies flying everywhere. How these people, these religious people, these real believers in God, could have possibly thought it was right to grab these planes in the name of God and fly into planes, I can't imagine. So the philosophy just completely lost me. But the logistics of how they learned how to do it and then get on the planes and organize themselves and get it done, that was something I had to understand. I knew right at that moment. And years later, I would find out that on that day, there was a young woman who now does something called Democracy Now! It's a great television show. It's the best news program in the history of the United States. It's called Democracy Now! I had to look for it to find it, but I found it. It turns out their opening show was set to be on 9/11/2001. It was about 3/11/1971 when Henry Kissinger ordered and made sure his orders were carried out to murder the president, Salvador Allende of Chile. What he did in having the murder taken, having taken that decision to make the murder, was horrible enough. He decided to kill a man, which first of all is a horrible thought. We shouldn't have to make that decision. Go around deciding who lives and who dies. That was, I was always taught, God or a God's decision, a being greater than ourselves. Or a force greater than ourselves. Life and death was something that we didn't go around deciding. That's why we don't carry guns and decide who should live and die. So Henry Kissinger decided that this man should die. because he wanted to make sure that American oil companies got access to the oil in Chile because he believed that it was important to our national security. Okay, good. Boom. We understand that. So then a couple of weeks later, when a general took control of that country, a guy named Pinochet started murdering people by the thousands. In public, Henry Kissinger was heard to say on a microphone as he was being interviewed, walking through one of those lobbies of those nice hotels in his nice black suit with his hair all slicked back. He says, blah, 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 blah. I'm Henry Kissinger, and what I think is Mr. Pinochet is protecting himself against those terrorists, and he should murder as many as he has to. And that's what I say in the name of the United States. And he's from wherever he's from. He's a U.S. citizen. He's our guy. We hired him to murder for us, and he did. He murdered Salvador Allende, the elected president of Chile, on the 11th, of March, 3/11/71. It's just amazing that they should be interested in telling that story about a war criminal named Henry Kissinger on the day that we decided to create a bunch of more war criminals. Okay? Now, we didn't decide on that date. We decided sometime in the 80s to train bin Laden and all his friends so that they could be ready to go and jump on a plane and bomb someplace. We didn't know where they were going to bomb. We didn't know when they were going to do it. All we know was we were training people so that they could use weapons that we wanted to sell to them. That's we, meaning the military-industrial complex of the United States. We trained bin Laden and all his pals to do what they do. We made it possible for them to get a hold of those materials by introducing them to arms dealers because we wanted them to fight on the side that we were fighting on. The mistake that we make in all this is that we honestly somehow get convinced, the legislators must get convinced that if we just keep, acting like we're in a bar fight or out in a schoolyard and keep punching the next guy that's toughest, just keep punching and punching, and if you punch enough people and you knock up enough people down, that eventually you'll solve all the problems. And that has never worked since the beginning of time. Henry Kissinger is a war criminal because he ordered the killing of Salvador Allende. Beyond that, he is incredibly unfaithful to the United States. I would say treasonous to stand in public and say that he thought that Augusto Pinochet was doing a good job and he should continue to rid Chile of its terrorists, who were the people who were mad at us because we killed their president. This didn't happen 100 years ago. This happened in 1971. That's like yesterday to the people from Chile. If they come back to get their revenge, what are we going to say? What did we do to them? No, we know what we did to them. Henry Kissinger is all wrong. One of the reasons why I should replace Jack Reed is because Jack Reed doesn't think that Henry Kissinger is all wrong. He thinks we should go back and do some more of that killing. Maybe kill off a few more presidents to see if it'll work. Again, and again, and again. And then he wants to train some more groups of people to fight against the people that we want fought against, and then we want to sell them the weapons that they can use to fight against those people until they decide to turn those weapons on us. Jack, you're wrong. Quit. The way you guys do things is wrong. Now, about Aaron Swartz, I almost can't discuss it. It's a little bit too close to home. What they're doing and what they're going to do to you kids if you don't stand up right now, and the first step is to put cameras on every cop. That's every FBI, every CIA, every NSA, anybody in the United States. We obviously can't have cameras on all our spies overseas. It's stupid that we have spies, but we have them. Okay? And the State Department will continue to run their spies everywhere, and no, we can't put cameras on them. But the minute you step in the United States, you should not, in the employ of the U.S. government, under any circumstances, whether you're a contractor or a direct employee, be able to take possession of a U.S. citizen or do them any personal harm without having records in the form of tape. That means videotape. If you don't have a camera on you taping the discussion or the activity between you and a citizen of the United States, no matter who you work for, you have to have it on camera. That means every time a social worker talks to you, every time a cop talks to you, every time the IRS corners you in your house, it doesn't matter. We need to keep video records of our contact with our government. Because if we don't first do that, then we can't start all the other discussions. Things that I can't get into quickly. Things that are going to take us time to understand. Things like net neutrality. If we don't have net freedom, internet freedom, what many call net neutrality, we will have nothing, because all our news will be picked through. They'll decide what we should know and what we shouldn't. And when I say they, you think that they might be good guys trying to, keep things straight, keep things right for us. But that's not true. They're corporations that have that information. They're corporations that are making those decisions, not even our government. Now, net neutrality isn't absolute, but today I wanted to make a distinction. We caused Aaron Swartz to kill himself by threatening him at 21 years old with 35 years in prison, and his crime was that he wanted to let everybody see everybody else's doctoral thesis for free after they were published. Nobody ever buys one. They only get published because they want to keep them in libraries. He was giving away something that nobody would pay for anyway, but that might have some value to the future. So he was giving away everybody's doctoral thesis that they write in college to get to have doctorates other than being a doctor. Okay? That was his crime. 35 years in prison. Henry Kissinger's still alive. He was talking to Charlie Rose, sitting in a comfortable chair. He murdered many people just like Aaron Swartz. People who believed in human rights. People who cared about the future. People whose goal is to make a sustainable and a fair world for us all to live in. We have to think about things differently. Our first step is to change the way we use our military. We should not fight anywhere. Barack Obama has done a great job of keeping us off the battlefield. Let's see if he can keep it up. My plans for the future is to maintain a great defense. We've always had a great defense, but we should not use our offensive power for any reason except to support civil rights. Never to take them away, to give people democratic control over the government. Never to take it away, to make sure that corporations don't stick their noses into the business of a sovereign government. That is our charge. Let's do it.